Hey everybody, welcome back to the Pixelists podcast, the podcast about all the nerdy things we love and enjoy. I'm Will, that's Blake, and today we're talking a little bit of WWW, aka WBN, aka Worlds Beyond Number, The Wizard, the Witch, and the Wild One.
Bro,
we're still
flowed
we're still
so
workshopping it. Well, thank you. But yeah, we're here to talk some more D&D, our bread and butter. Specifically episode 5 of this fledgling campaign. And I'm excited to dive into it, man. But before we do, we got a little late night Pixelist going on, a little like Pixelist after dark almost.
Yeah.
Which is it? Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, it's the night before the next episode, so we got to get this one up, but yeah.
we're still sliding it in, but we don't typically record like late at night like this, so I'm liking this, just the kind of vibe so far.
It is pretty late, actually. It's about 10 o'clock here, so I'll get up about 6:37, so I guess I'll be tired tomorrow. I just get really sad all of a sudden.
You just leave the call. Actually,
yeah.
I gotta go.
I gotta go. Oh man.
But I'm excited. Like I said, we don't I don't know, it's just a different vibe compared to like our early morning coffee time, but right. I'm here for it. So we're talking about that before we get into the nitty-gritty. Couple quick things, or just one really. Obviously we got Critical Role, that's the usual, but this week in addition to that, the Dimension 20, the Ravening War, I believe it's called.
Yeah.
Or something close to that is coming out. And if you're watching this video, you're probably a Brennan Lee Mulligan / Dimension 20 fans. You probably already know. But we're excited for that. Matt is going to be taking over the DM's chair for Dimension 20 for the first time. And it looks to be a really exciting campaign. We got Brennan and Aabria, right? Is Aabria in it as well? I think she is.
Yeah, she's in it. Yeah.
So we got some Worlds Beyond Number crew, some Critical Role crew. I'm excited.
I was giggling because I was envisioning him as DM, just being really like, I'm way better than that other guy. He's like, I'm right here at the table.
Please stop.
Yeah. All right, this is a mistake.
But yeah, we got that coming down the pipeline, and I am excited for that. So yeah, I'm assuming a bunch of y'all are as well. Other than that, I don't think I got anything else.
Not to be Clark Kent, but I put these on and they didn't help my headache, so they're going back on again. So I'm old now, man.
I hear you, man. My eyesight is terrible.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I guess what we like to do before we jump into an episode is do a little recap action. Then we peel that off, put it off as its own separate video. So if you're trying to catch up, you can watch just the recaps. And then after we're done with the recap, we'll do a full episode breakdown. And so if you're watching just the recap, just check the description. We have the whole discussion. And I think, Will, you're going to cover the first half of this episode.
Yes, sir. So once again, this is episode 5 of The Wizard, the Witch, and the Wild One, called Water, Water Everywhere. So we pick up with Suvi, Ame, and Ursulon having just entered this chamber where they have gone looking for Finley in order to retrieve the Wavebreaker sword. But inside, they have found his body on the ground, throat slit, blood everywhere. And there is a window that is shattered. Presumably, whoever has killed Finley has escaped out of this window. But the window's really high up. It's like 15 feet, much taller than you would think a normal person could jump and escape out of.
Most people.
Yeah, so they begin to just investigate what's going on. Ursulon casts Divine Sense just to see if he can ping anything, but he does not. So Ame decides, I'm going to send the fox through the window and see if he can find anything. She decides against throwing him through it because the fox is like, I'll just go outside and go around. So he does that. And in the meantime, they search the chamber. Ursulon looks for the Wavebreaker sword or the blue silken cloth that he had it wrapped in back when he had it. But neither of those are around. Ame inspects Finley's body more closely and something seems to be kind of just slightly off. The body's like too cold for how fresh all of this blood is that's around. And while she's looking at that, Suvi looks around the chamber for any like papers or ledgers, just anything for more information, but doesn't really have any luck. What she does find, however, is a door, a locked door. And on the other side of it, she can hear like this heavy, like sliding sound. So she begins to try and pick the lock. Um, Ame then speaks telepathically with the fox, who has now made his way out there, and she then actually sees through the fox's eyes, which he consents to, and it's kind of a new experience for the both of them. And as she kind of like enters his vision, you can see that he's not actually like looking around. He's like about to dig toward this pile of trash. Ame's like, "Hey, we don't have time for this right now. We can come back to this later." And he's like, "Ah, okay." So then he goes and like tries to find a scent of blood, considering Finley was just murdered and this potential murderer has
Right.
absconded. But the fox smells no blood. There's no scent, and so what they take from this is, okay, whoever killed Finley is still in the room. The call's coming from inside the house. Um, so Ame like tells everybody this, and they're like, "Hmm." And Suvi says, "Hey, just cut Finley's hand real quick."
Yeah.
And so Ame does, and
Maybe they
so
didn't just chop it off or something.
yeah, that would have been metal. Uh,
Yeah.
so what Brennan does here is pretty fun. He asks for a perception slash insight check from everybody, and he says he's going to roll in front of the board, but he's not going to tell them what the roll is for. Um, he says, "I'm going to roll, and I'm going to be +9 whatever I roll." So all three of them roll, and Suvi actually gets the highest with a 21. So Brennan rolls, and it's 11 +9 for 20. So Suvi
Mm.
just beats it, and the other two did not beat it. So he describes Suvi hearing this almost imperceptible kind of whine come from the corpse as soon as Ame cuts his hand. So he's still alive, and we roll initiative. So combat begins, and if you're new to us or if you're not, we try to just hit the highlights of combat. This one was quick anyway. Um, but we have Ursulon basically trying to tackle Finley, but he misses. And so Ame then casts her first curse of the campaign and ever for her character, presumably, commanding Finley to halt. And
Mhm.
he succumbs to this and is frozen in place by the command. So Suvi's like, "Well, this is under control." And she goes back to that door she was trying to pick the
Yeah.
lock for. But
Just
instead
go
of
straight
picking
to
it,
it.
yeah, she just decides, you know what? This is kind of like a worn piece of wood that is the lock, and she just breaks it. So she breaks the lock, opens the door, sees this wardrobe, and inside she sees what she thinks is like a body that's potentially hiding in there. But in addition to that, what she sees is something that sees her back. There's this massive statue of this like golem that is covered in candle wax and covered in candles, um, staring straight at her. It's 10 feet tall, and the head kind of like swivels as she opens the door. And as this happens, all these candles on its body light. And in a panic, Suvi's like, I cast prestidigitation to blow the candles out. And Brennan's like, "You know what? That like shouldn't work, but you know what? Give me an Arcana check." And he's like, "It's a DC 20," and Suvi gets a 23. So there's this great moment where the candles all get whooshed out, and the golem kind of goes like inert, and she just like slams the door back really quick.
So don't go
Um,
in there.
yeah, she's like, "Nobody go in there." Meanwhile, Ursulon has pinned the frozen Finley to the ground, and Ame has tied his hands together so that he cannot cast any spells. They ask him about the Wavebreaker sword, and he says he doesn't have it anymore. He sold it to Will Gallows. And this name is familiar to Ursulon. It's one he heard a lot back in the day when he was in Port Talon. Will Gallows is basically like the most dangerous man around in the town. The legend is he apparently moved there after he was hanged for treason. Um, Will Gallows is a shadow, a dead man come back to life, is how Finley describes him. So Suvi's like, "Well, who's in the wardrobe then?" And Finley's like, "Oh, that's just one of my employees." So Suvi goes and checks on them, and this young girl comes out. She's not humanoid. She's got some interesting aspects about her, and like this stark white skin. And she introduces herself as Ghost. And Ursula detects that she's got some fey presence about her. She says, "You know what? I'm fine." They ask if she's like a prisoner or whatever. She's like, "I'm fine. I work for Finley. I like to work with machines, and I have this ability where things that are magic like become stop being magical when I touch them. So because of that, I can take apart like spell engines easily, and I'm very useful to Finley. She says she can't do it on command though. Finley is like yelling at her, like saying, "Hey, stop talking to them. Go alert the authorities. Go tell Will Gallows' men that these intruders are here." So Ghost is like, okay, I will go and drop off the message for Mr. Gallows the way we normally do. And the crew is like, well, we're just going to come with you because we need to talk to Will Gallows because he's the one that has a sword. So before they all leave to, follow Ghost, go plant this message, Ame asks about the blue silk that Ursulon had the sword wrapped in, and if they still have it. Ghost then goes and retrieves it from the wardrobe and asks Finley, how much should I charge them for this? And he's like, 5 gold, just kind of being ridiculous. And Suvi's like, heck no. But Ame does an insight check, rolls really high, and realizes that if they don't pay for this, Finley's going to take out on Ghost. Like, she will have to pay for it out of her wages. So Ame insists that they pay for it. And there's a little bit of a dispute between Suvi and Ame about this, because Suvi does not want to, pay Finley, who's this, sleazeball. So Ursulon, kind of sensing and getting in the middle of this dispute, kind of plays peacemaker and says, hey, Suvi, loan me 5 gold and I'll pay it, and like I'll pay you back. So she kind of reluctantly agrees to this, gives Ursulon the money, he pays, they get the cloak, and then they head out to go follow Ghost, go to this message spot, and I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, so they go. They're traveling basically down the path of this town, and it's been rainy and wet, and there's naturally just great dialogue with the fox. Anytime the fox is involved, it's great dialogue. And before we get to more of that conversation, they're basically talking to Ghost and just trying to figure out kind of her background and the source of her power, and just kind of learn more about her. And they realize very quickly that this is someone who has been essentially through her fair share of trauma, and that her coming to work for Finley is not of positive means. And as they're walking, Suvi's like, hey, have you ever thought about going to the Citadel? And Brennan kind of points out kind of the absurdity of this question for someone of Ghost's esteem or estate, or whatever that phrasing is. They basically make it eventually to this fence post, or this signpost that has some hanging pots with plants in them, and the plants are all rotted and withered. And Ghost basically shoves a bone into the pot, and is like, all right, well, Will Gallows' people will be in touch. Like, that's the signal. And they're like, oh, okay. And then Lou Wilson's character, Ursulon, actually inspects it. And with a 17, it's like, it appears she has literally just shoved a bone into this pile of soil. Like, there's no magic about it. Like, that's all there is to it. And then also, before Ghost kind of moves on to go back to Finley, Suvi kind of pulls her aside and is like, hey, I don't really know much, but if you'd want to make your way, if you'd want to go to the Citadel, like they take care of people who know magic, and it might be great for you. And she's sort of unsure, kind of almost disbelieving the offer. But eventually is like, okay, yeah, in sort of this naive excitement is like, okay, yeah, where do I go? What do I do? And Suvi's like, I'll make a way for you. Go to one of the Azure Battalion outposts, and I'll basically put in a good word for you. So Ghost is like, all right, we'll see ya, and leaves. And we have this really strange conversation between Suvi and Ame, where Ame's like, well, hey, isn't the Citadel, don't they send mages off to war to die? It's not like she's going to this glorious, amazing place. And Suvi instantly is defensive, and not just defensive, is seemingly pissed off by this questioning, and is like, what do you know about the Citadel? How, it's really none of your business. And as Ame is sort of awkwardly trying to be like, whoa, Suvi's kind of like, yeah. It's just it's a strange interaction.
It's tense.
And finally, Ame, is just like, okay, I'm sorry, that's all right. And Suvi's basically like, here, we're here to figure out what's going on with the sword, with this curse. Like, let's just focus on that. They go back to the signpost. The fox and Ursula have been chatting, and the fox has been talking about like how great the trip's been. Like, yeah, other than that whole boat thing, didn't really like that, and it's like super wet. They just I can't do it justice. They were just really great. And once they're all back together, Ursula kind of looks around to see like, is there like maybe like a watch person who's looking for the bone tell? And they essentially see this plaza with lights on that they're like, let's go over there and see, maybe we'll find something. They head that way. They make it to this kind of open area where this plaza is, and there is and I forgot one detail about Ghost. Ame, looking in her eyes, sees this flash of her background of her being the daughter of a spirit and a mortal.
Yeah. It was Ursulon because he recognized like
that's right.
that same thing about himself in her. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you. So I forgot that detail. But anyway, so they go to this plaza. Ghost has left. And at the center of this plaza is the statue of two spirits, a man and a woman who are dancing, and the man's face has been vandalized. And so Ame sends the fox up to basically prestidigitation or mending on the face. And naturally, Suvi, still kind of peeved, is just like, what are we doing? Like, why are we messing with this? The fox goes and licks the face where it's been defaced, and the lick begins to repair the face of this statue. And everyone's like, oh, that's so cool. That's really nice. That so much so they don't notice that Ame is on the ground convulsing, like having this vision basically of people fleeing and in terror. And Brennan describes vines that are stretching out and bringing ruin, and then this lance that shatters down from the sky, and basically this face that's being repaired, she sees this face like a light, and I actually don't remember how it ends after that.
So
that's basically the end of the episode, but then what happened after that?
It essentially is the end of the episode. She kind of has this violent vision, and Ursulon like finally turns to see.
Oh, yes, and he does lay on hands on her, and as he does it, these vines come out of her and immediately die, which was this cool little flavor bit to it.
Yeah.
And then anything else after that?
Just like that whole thing, Brennan for Ame, he calls for a saving throw, and we do know that she succeeds the saving throw.
And she like coughs up like seawater or something. Yeah. It's a cool little thing. I've done that in my campaign. The old cough up seawater technique. Anyway,
Classic.
that was episode 5 of Worlds Beyond Number, The Wizard, the Witch, and the Wild One. Let's chat about the episodes. If you're watching just the recap, we have the full link below. Will, what'd you think?
I loved it, man. This is about to be just like our Critical Role segment where we pretty much say the same thing every time, but I'm really enjoying this campaign. It's the cliffhanger was really interesting. I'm loving it. The sound design is amazing. I've really enjoyed that aspect of this show, and it's just hard waiting 2 weeks between each episode, but luckily new one tomorrow. So what about you though? What'd you think?
We did that intentionally. That's why we recorded the night before, so we could say that. Yeah, I loved it. If you guys haven't checked out our channel before, we're gonna pretty much love this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
this is our bread and butter for sure. Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great. Had a lot of fun listening to it. The sound design, and we've talked highly about it every episode, but this one especially, I really liked. I'm liking the thematic music isn't the right word, but as she is, Ame has the fox licking the face. It's sort of like the supernatural, spirit, not techno, but there's a music to it,
Yeah.
We got that in Grandmother Wren's house when she was passing on. I'm liking now that we're getting music that it's like, oh, I know what that goes with.
He kind of like
Uh,
like musical themes
right. Yeah.
for like moments or characters as we might
Right.
see. Yeah.
Maybe we'll hear like a womp womp womp. It's like, yeah. No, I'm just kidding.
But yet, yeah, I'm totally with you. And uh, asking this to you, but also everyone that may be watching. So like the episode ends and it goes into like the outro music of thanks for watching Worlds Beyond
Yeah.
Number or whatever it is. There was actually kind of a little like extra little bit after that. I don't know if you like. I'm sure a lot
I
of
didn't
people
see
kind of
that.
just click off once that part's happening. It's not like
Oh, I didn't see that.
it wasn't like actual like story necessarily, but just figured I'd throw it out there for anybody that missed it. It was just like it cut back to like Lou and everybody, and he was like, man, I should have kicked Finley back when they were like, he was like debating it when they still like first ran into the corpse. And so there's just
I
like a little funny combo.
I wondered if they were gonna kill him because there was a moment where Ursulan's like, he's like, I step up, I'm done with this conversation, and I was like, is he gonna stab him? Because after Suvi in the previous episode, I'm kind of like, I'm getting a little "Are we the baddies" energy. So I just wasn't sure what was gonna happen there with Finley.
Well, this he was referencing when they first came in and he was just going to kick him to see if he was
Yeah.
actually a corpse or not. But yeah, yeah, I not necessarily like we the baddies, which I know you didn't mean that like hardcore, but I mean, there's definitely this edge with Suvi, which we'll get into a little bit more. But yeah, shout out for the post credit scenes. The fact that that happened, I'm gonna make sure I listen through every time now. I'm sure they would never put anything like important after
Mm,
the end credits roll, but
right.
food for thought. The more you know. Okay, this episode. Where to begin? Where to begin? I guess
I guess.
there's like the most interesting thing, that cliffhanger. I don't know, like should we start there? Or should we kind of put that on pause and come
Put
back
that
to
at
it?
the end. Let's kind of go
Okay.
through it chronologically. I think. Let's start with where the last episode ended, which was the Finley, the hijinks with Finley, Brennan with the peak despicable voice of this guy. It was so good. And I really liked the sort of twist on this in that the I think what I liked about it was it was like the cliche of like you arrived just a moment too late and they escaped out the window.
Yeah.
It just it's a cliche. We've seen it. It's happened before. So it's kind of like, okay, I guess we're gonna go this route. So I liked that little twist on it. That was fun.
Yeah, I liked that too, and I didn't expect it
Right.
coming into it, and I liked the So I've listened to the fireside chat for this episode, and one of the things I talked about is that that like spell that he used is there's feign death. Like there's a feign death spell in 5e,
Ah,
and it's like garbage. Like why would anybody ever take it? And like Brennan was kind of talking about that, and he brought up this really interesting point, um, or this not point, but he just brought up something interesting to kind of showcase how he's picturing this world, in
mhm.
that hedge mages kind of just have the scraps of magic. Like they
Yeah.
get the
Okay.
spells that the Citadel throws away. So like that's why he had feign death, which is kind of garbage. Um,
Yeah.
which I don't know how much to read into that. That could just be like kind of his philosophy speaking to, and not necessarily like a hard and fast rule. But if it is more of the latter, it's interesting to think about that. Like typically in mechanical D&D, like anyone can really access any spell, like as long as that's your class's spell and you're the appropriate level. But this made me think of it in a new way, like, oh, okay, hedge mages, because they're this kind of like homeschooled wizard, can't even cast like maybe some of these prestigious spells that they teach at the Citadel. And I just thought that was like a cool like world building thing, if it's even true. But since he said that, I'm imagining there's some level of truth to it.
And it might be like a literal scrap in the sense of, if you remember the original adult interaction with Ursulan with the hedge mage bounty hunter,
Mm-hmm.
who the way Brennan described the casting of Fairy Fire was he had his playing cards and he pulled one out and it had the blue verbatim, something like the blue sigils of the Citadel or something like that he like blew on.
Mm.
So it may be like they've literally thrown these things out or just discarded. Like there's some kind of like artifact there, which would I think make sense. These people are kind of like, you know, alleyway criminal types, you know, kind of smuggler types. It
Yeah.
makes sense that they've sort of collected and gathered these seemingly worthless things that they've now kind of developed their persona around. So I like that. That's cool.
Yeah. And again, I don't know, like, I don't know how canon that statement was from him, but it's just interesting. If that is true, again, it's interesting to think about the implications for the world. Like, what if the Citadel? We've kind of been wondering, like, what is going on with them? Are they kind of like morally
Right.
gray? Like, what's their deal? And it would be interesting if they were like literally like hoarding power in terms of like no one else can access these very powerful things but them.
Right.
It's just it's interesting for the political hierarchy. I always get hesitant when I'm about to say that word. Hierarchy. Am
The
I
H word?
Yeah, am I saying that right?
Hierarchy.
Hierarchy. Okay, so
Yeah.
not hierarchy.
I see why you said that though, because it's spelled that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just hire like hire. I'm gonna hire someone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Political
But all
hierarchy.
of a sudden I didn't know if you were saying like a version of it that was like, you know, specific to politics, like an hierarchy.
Let's
And I
go
was
with
like,
that.
yeah.
That's what I was doing.
Oh, Will, you and
Yeah.
pronouncing things.
Oh. So
Oh
yeah,
man.
just wanted to throw
Okay.
that out there. Uh, but yeah, I thought I just you mentioned the voice earlier. I just pictured this like scraggly old like
Yeah.
like I don't even definitely like alleyway mage like you said. Um, it was great. I'm curious about. Well, I want to talk about this moment in general, but the Suvi's prestidigitation on the candle golem or statue,
Yeah.
that was just so cool, and that just shows like how one skilled of a DM Brennan is to like go with the flow on that. But two, just like how fun of a moment it became because
Mm.
he was willing to do that. I think we both know some types of players that would have like had an aneurysm if you like a prestidigitation won't work on this CR, whatever monster. Like, don't be ridiculous.
Yeah.
Um,
That's why they have no players.
so, so yeah, I just thought that was fun and a nice little DM tip, which I don't
Oh
know,
yeah. I think it's
just
a great DM tip. Yeah.
rule of
I mean,
cool, like
yeah.
go with the flow. And he still made it like it didn't automatically work. He said, you know what, like that's awesome, DC 20, which is pretty high for a level 1 character.
Mhm.
So just I loved that whole sequence. And yeah, back to what you
Well,
said about. Or go
I
ahead.
just want to comment on it for a second. I think it's a great insight because we saw it happen, and so the temptation is like, well, yeah, of course, like who would disagree with that? But we also know that there's been other formats, notably like where Aabria has DM'd and has gotten criticized for rule of cool, like, oh, there's too much rule of cool, and bottom line is we're all backseat drivers anyway. But I think it is a really great DM tip of you have a player who had this awesome moment of just creativity, and to encourage that, you want to reward it rather than being like I think you and I have even had DMs in the past where it's so specifically like boxed in on like monster description or this is how it is, this is how it works, that you don't really feel like you have much opportunities to interact. And so I think you rightly pointed out as a really great DM tip.
Yeah, it was just a fun moment. And yeah, I just liked to call back to something you said a minute ago, how the Finley like feigning death was kind of a subversion of what we thought was going to happen. I kind of liked that. Of course, he's not a good guy by any stretch of the imagination, but I liked kind of the dynamic shift of kind of humanizing Finley slightly with how Ghost perceives him. Like,
Yeah.
and this kind of leads into later in the episode where Ghost is kind of trying to decide, you know, should I go to the Citadel and pursue this life, or I think I don't remember exactly what like Ame offered her, but it was essentially like follow Suvi's advice and like go to the Citadel, or like follow Ame's advice and be happy with your lot in life type of situation. Um, so yeah, I thought it was interesting to examine that character, and maybe we'll talk more about Ghost um, now or later or whenever.
Well,
But
I like what you said because I think fully fleshed out characters, like when we talk about complicated characters, complicated isn't the right word, but like it's pretty rare. Like I think about we haven't talked about this, but like the D&D movie, without spoiling it, but the paladin who's like so over the top, positive, like good guy.
yeah,
It's rare that you come across that kind of like good person and then like the explicitly evil. And so I think yeah, I'm pretty much just like I keep everything I say is just like agreeing with what you say. But yeah, it was nice to add like a more color to Finley and be like, he's not a good guy. He's probably more douchebag than evil, and probably a little evil, but like not like, you know, probably not like canonically like deeply demonically evil.
yeah.
Just kind of a douche. So
Yeah, like he
anyway,
wasn't like holding her prisoner and forcing her to use her
right,
ability against her will. Like he hired
right,
her, and
yeah,
she enjoyed the work. So yeah, I just liked that, and make three-dimensional characters, I guess, is
right.
the bottom line to this thesis statement. But yeah, I I guess I don't want to like skew too far ahead, but to talk more about Ghost. Speaking of three-dimensional characters, this felt like a PC's character to me. Like it was so like deep and fleshed out and
Yeah,
really cool. Um,
yeah.
I'm curious if Brennan had, prior to this encounter, like when he was uh, setting up this session, if you will. I'm curious what his plans were for Ghost, or if there even were any beyond this one scene, because that's such a cool ability that I feel like could have such like such big implications in this world where wizards and witches are some of the most powerful entities there are. Like somebody that can nullify magic, essentially.
I mean, yeah, it's basically a on use version of disenchant without like disassembling the I guess like rendering it inert. Um, yeah, it's incredibly powerful. So much so that 5e doesn't even have disenchant in it. And so I think it's interesting that this character has this, and it almost makes me suspicious if Brennan's going to loop this character back in some way if Wavebreaker ends up being not the full turn of the story, or there's a reason that it can't like fully be utilized. I
Hmm.
wonder if Ghost will come back in some way. Because is the golem presumably like her friend, or like
Yeah, I think so. She has some sort of relationship with it. I was curious about that too, because she even said, like, "Can I bring the golem
flicker?
with me to the
Yeah,
Citadel?" So
yeah.
that made me wonder. Like, we know she was an orphan. She had a
Is it called Flicker? Or am I thinking of the J
oh,
Lo movie?
I think it is. That
I
rang a
think it's called
bell.
Flicker. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I wonder. It seems okay. I'm about to like answer my own question before I even lay out the question. But I was wondering if like she had a relationship with that thing, like, and they came together to work for Finley.
Yeah.
But it seems like that's not the case, because it seemed like Finley was like, before he got like halted and his arms tied or whatever, he was like, "Have at you," and was like summoning the
Yeah.
golem. But Suvi had already like blown the candles out. So I'm
Yeah.
guessing it's his like creation or
Yeah. It could be. Yeah.
whatever. But yeah, she clearly has some sort of relationship with it, which I guess she said she couldn't control her ability, and I don't know how like the magic
Mm.
of a wax statue would work, but I guess she can. I mean, maybe she doesn't interact with it, or else like could she like kill it if she touched it or something?
Mm.
Like I don't know, but they're
Right.
clearly close. Um,
They didn't do it. They didn't do an insight check. Like it's such an odd It's such an odd caveat to her power. I can't control it. Why would why would he hire you if you weren't able to, when needed, use your power?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, it is interesting they didn't insight check her. I Do you think she maybe was not being earnest?
I don't know. It doesn't seem to be the case, but also the way Brennan described her, um, humble, keeping to herself, shrinking into her space. I almost wonder through basically also the implied trauma, she doesn't know these people. And
Right.
so, maybe it's a half truth, like maybe it's not like a full on lie. Maybe it's a half truth and there's more to it. And maybe she's saying it because she doesn't trust them, doesn't know them, doesn't want to get, um, maybe she has at least enough sense to know that this would be valuable for other people and she doesn't quite know their motivations. And so I don't know. I just think it's a little, I think that was a very innocuous line that could just be thrown away like, oh yeah, well, I don't know, I can control it, like, oh okay. But then when you like peel it back, it's like, well, wait a second, then why are you in employment there if you can't? I don't know, there's just
Yeah.
something there that is kind of odd. So
Yeah. And I guess it calls back to what exactly Brennan's plans were for this character. Is this like a future plan to see? But what throws a wrench into all of that is how massively the group affected her storyline, because now she's going to the Citadel, which Brennan couldn't have actively anticipated and planned for, So I'm curious, like,
yeah.
maybe this was just a cool side character that, maybe he did something with later, maybe not. But now we've got like a direct cause and effect that I'm interested to see what happens.
Right.
And I guess I can't control it. I guess devil's advocate could also mean like I can't not make it happen. Like I can't control it in the sense
Oh
that like I
yeah.
can't turn it off if I want to play with something and not break it.
Yeah,
Um
okay, that actually makes way more sense than my whole spiel.
no, I mean
So
it's still interesting because, and I think Brennan even brought it up when they were asking her something. I don't know what the moment was, but it was about like, I don't know you people. Like I'm kind of scared. Like
right,
like
yeah,
it would make total sense for her to not be entirely forthright. Not to say she's lying,
right.
um, but yeah, I'm really curious to see what happens with this character. Um, I absolutely think. I think I don't want to get into the Suvi Ame conflict just yet because we're not there. But I absolutely kind of agree with Ame in the sense that I feel like these people are going to look at her like a tool and utilize her as a tool. Um, and so what's interesting, I guess, is how Suvi views it. If she's like, yeah, exactly, that's what they're going to do, but this will lead to a better life for her,
Mhm.
or is she kind of, I don't know if denial is the right word, but does she not know that that's kind of what's happening and is kind of thinking, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm not articulating it well, but
No, yeah, there's weird energy there. I mean, this is the second time we've seen them go at it. The first time being, the discussion on the funeral rites for Captain Imless,
yeah.
and just weird energy. You have Ame, who you would assume living in a cottage her whole life would be like the most naive, trusting person, but has the wherewithal to be like, is this really good for her? And then you have Suvi, who we would presume would be fully in the know and like practical enough to know like this isn't so clean as like, yeah, go to the Citadel, you'll be fine. I mean, she's lived there. She knows the stories of the soldiers who've come back and or those the ones who haven't come back.
Hmm.
So it's weird how these positions kind of flip for each character. I do think Suvi is a bit in denial, and there's something. I wonder if we're going to get a moment that takes us to the root of why there's so much tension. Because I'm assuming that wasn't present in the children's story, so I don't think it's a callback. I'm assuming there's just some kind of weird energy between them where, and it's obviously coming from Suvi. Um, but yeah, Suvi seems to really have an issue anytime Ame wants to make a suggestion or make the call or something. It's weird. It's the bottom line. It's just weird.
Yeah, it's it's a super interesting character dynamic though, and I love that they've like I love that Aabria is like introducing that friction and that kind of cool inter party conflict, for lack of a better word, um, this early. And that's not that anyone was like actually concerned that like Aabria and Erika are like butting heads at the table, but it is something they addressed in the
Yeah.
fireside chat, being like, we
Hopefully,
obviously love each other, and
yeah.
like,
Hopefully, people wouldn't think this. I mean, this is.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, go ahead.
But yeah, they said like, this was pre-negotiated. We obviously like, as a table kind of talk about like any type of thing like this would have been like there's not a curveball to somebody else at the table. And they said that like, it's a audio only, so you can't see us, but like anytime there's like a moment like that, we both are kind of like getting giddy about like the character drama.
Yeah.
So it's all in good fun.
Suvi's like, I stab you. It's
I
like, "Wait,
hate
what?"
you. But yeah,
Oh, man.
I'm very interested, and like you brought up, like this is the dynamic that we already kind of talked about in last episode, where she was like, don't ever second guess me or whatever it was, like in front of, uh, don't ever like talk back to me in front of people again or something like that.
Right.
So to me, it seems like, and this makes sense. You referenced the children's adventure. There was no like dynamic like this in the children's adventure. I have like 30 minutes left in the last episode, by the way, for context of where I'm speaking from. Um, but to me, this dynamic just stems from who these characters are. Like Suvi obviously had a very tragic. They all kind of have tragic backstories. The three main characters, and her life was essentially an orphan, was sent to the Citadel, and that's where she found purpose and was honed into this weapon that she now clearly finds a lot of pride and purpose in.
Right.
So I feel like she's just projecting that onto Ghost,
Right.
who,
Yeah.
but I think where the disconnect lies is that Ghost was happy with where she was for the most part. Like she found somewhere that like she fit in and her gift was useful. And I think Ame recognized that and was like, not
Yeah.
everyone is like you. Not everyone has these aspirations to be the next,
Right.
sept of the seventh or whatever. Um, so yeah, I loved that. It was real meaty. It was juicy. Um, I hope not that I expect Ghost to be like a major player that we see a lot, but I hope we like hear more about what happened there.
Yeah.
Um, I wonder if it'll all be off screen or if we'll have Aabria like go to the Azure Battalion and like, talk to somebody about her or not. Um, I'm curious to see.
And what they'll say, because I'm still curious about Abria's like positioning, like to the average commoner. There's definitely like oh, you're a wizard, but
Yeah.
I am curious because like when they tried to secure the ship, the nicer ship,
Hmm.
they basically she didn't have enough clout, and so I'm wondering basically how far like her word or her status will take them. So
Yeah. 'Cause it seems like thus far her staff, from what I can gather, just denotes that she is a wizard of the Citadel and doesn't denote anything like beyond that.
right,
Not that, because she is, one of the Archmage's apprentices or whatever, like the youngest one
yeah,
ever. So like even among Citadel wizards, she has clout, but I doubt that like all that information is being gleaned just from her staff. Um, so yeah, I'm with you. I'm curious how far that will get her, because I don't think we've had a moment where she's like explicitly tried to outline exactly who she is.
I
And
don't think. Sorry, go ahead.
no, and I was just gonna say, yeah, maybe that would even be frowned upon, like because she is an apprentice, so maybe like she shouldn't be out
Right.
there like throwing the Citadel's name out.
Well, mechanically speaking, she's level 1 also.
Right.
So like in terms of like, I don't think Brennan's going to be like a stickler, but I think great DMs put like not only does your character level up in like combat proficiency, but they kind of level up in status a little bit too.
Yeah.
And so it wouldn't quite make sense for her to already. It kind of actually closes the DM design space a little bit if she can just talk to anybody, get things happening. Like, I'm a wizard from the Citadel. Do this, do that. Give us all the stuff in your store. Like, so I don't think, not that Brennan's gonna like limit her, because I think he really loves encouraging his players to be creative. I just don't think it will be as direct as she goes to a battalion. Hey, I'm a wizard. Oh my gosh, right this way. There's a girl named Ghost. She needs to be taken. I just don't know if it's gonna be that clean. It could be, but I just don't know if it would be.
Yeah, 100%. And it. Yeah, I've waxed poetic on it enough, but yeah.
Okay, so quick shout out to the Fox. Every time the Fox gets attention, man.
He's so great.
So freaking good, dude. I loved them coming back to the Fox and Ursulon's conversation.
Yes.
He's like, I was mad. And when I realized that I wasn't in danger, then I was mad again.
That was hilarious,
man. Yeah.
Brennan, so yeah, he's playing that character so like perfectly, like the naivete, but also like he's like I don't know if smart is the right word, but he's like really insightful whilst being naive.
Yeah.
Yeah. But one thing on the Fox that I thought was great, but also just interesting is, he is sad about the trash. He's like, I guess we're not going back for the trash. And he thinks Ame lied to him. But in reality, she just forgot. But that's like an interesting kind of dynamic that I think could be developing.
Well, and it's nice because, keep in mind that it's not D&D wizard familiar. We're talking this sort of homebrewed relationship that's really cool, and it has to be tended to. We're talking a lifelong bond.
Yeah.
And so, I think that tiny little detail is a nice little foreshadowing of great potential growth between the two, which we're already getting as well when she does the what's it called, seeing through the Fox's eyes. But then also the Fox sort of like taking on her spells in a certain way, which I don't know if it was like a prestidigitation exactly, but when the Fox licks the face of the statue, that was really cool too.
Yeah, I think it was a mending spell.
Yeah. Because prestidigitation wouldn't do it. That's right. So I guess mending.
I haven't like actually had experience playing with Find Familiar in D&D, but I think you can, at least with certain spells, cast them through your familiar. So I'm assuming that's the mechanics of what was happening in that moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really interesting. And just I already mentioned it, but just again, hats off to Brennan for having the insight, I guess, to twist that Fox trash moment in that way. Like that's such an easily like forgettable thing that you could just not bring up anymore. Like Erika clearly forgot. That's gone. But no, like he's grabbed that and is utilizing it for like a really cool character dynamic. Which speaks to his character as well. He is a tricksy fox. Like that would be the assumption. He wouldn't assume she forgot. He would assume she got one over on him. Just big fan of the old Brennan Lee Mulligan. A couple quick things I'm looking at or go ahead.
You can cast through your familiar.
Is it only certain spells? Because surely you can't like.
It is only certain spells, but mending's on here.
Okay.
So
I wonder if it's just like cantrip. Maybe it's just any spell that requires touch. You can facilitate that part of it with the familiar.
Yeah.
I'm looking at my notes here. Just a couple of quick things that I glossed over already. During the combat, Ame casts presumably command when she tells Finley to halt. There was no roll or anything, unless I'm just completely forgetting. So I'm curious if that is like a functionality of this homebrewed witch class, where there's like, it's not exactly the same as command in normal 5e where you have to like do the saving throw, or if there was a roll and for whatever reason that was edited in the production, or I'm just completely misremembering and there was a roll. But I wrote this down, so I feel like there
I
must
think it
not
could
have been.
be. It could be either, because there was also a moment in the Captain Emless fight where there was another moment like that where you were like, okay, wait, what? There was, I think it was where Lou Wilson threw the broomstick, and then his next turn he had the fencing sword like ready to go, which they were playing around earlier, but there was like a skip of a detail or something. I was like, well,
Mhm.
wait, when did he get that ready?
Yeah.
So I think either something like that happened, like you're right, like maybe like in editing they cut it out, or maybe maybe the special ability of like a witch curse is that, I don't know. Which have we gotten we haven't gotten a character sheet yet, right? Right? Or like a class description?
I don't think so. Not to my knowledge, at least. But yeah, I mean, surely there's not just a "it always succeeds" command, but I'm curious because
Mm.
there's something
Especially not
more
level
to it than.
one.
Um, Sorry, what'd you say?
So I said especially not at level one.
Yeah, yeah. And then the other quick thing that I wanted to mention was the earlier kind of dispute between Ame and Suvi in this episode about the 5 gold for the
Yeah.
silk, the cloth.
Yeah.
I thought that was just another nice kind of dichotomy of their dynamics, but I loved that Ursulon, kind of the third party in this, thruple, not thruple, but I just love that like he kind of stepped in. Like this was also kind of situation was kind of all because of him, so I'm sure he felt like this was his to take care of in a way, but also just like wanting to play peacemaker, being like, no, like just loan me the 5 gold. Like he takes the burden upon himself, is what I'm trying to
Mm.
say. And I love that for his character because he is, or was
Very,
this young kid that wanted to be a knight,
yeah.
wanted to like do the right thing. So I feel like this was kind of like a cool
Very,
encapsulated moment of that.
very Jesse Pinkman-esque, where
Oh,
Mike and Walt are arguing over like the cut of money for like Mike's guys, and then Jesse is like, just take it out of mine. I don't care. Just take it out of mine.
yeah.
So
Good old
yeah.
Jesse Pinkman.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah. Oh, and this is a random thought that I had. So if in our previous episodes we've talked about the wizard names a bunch, and there's like power
Yeah.
in names, which we've heard. We've got steel, we've got soft, we've got stone. We've got Suvi, which does start with an S, but for my money right now, that's just a coincidence. If Suvi gets a new name, I was like maybe Silk, because like this cloak of hers has had a lot of relevance so far throughout the story, and so I was like, I could see it, maybe Silk.
Why would
Anyway,
she get a new name
my random
though?
thought. Why?
Yeah.
Well, if the whole theories about like wizards end up getting these new
Mm.
names so that their true names aren't known and used against them,
Yeah.
that's a
Oh,
huge
okay.
assumption. But if that's true and Suvi at some point gets a new name,
What if I was like, what are you
Silk
talking about, man? Yeah. I think I'm currently, if that is true, I'm under the impression Suvi is the given name.
is
No,
the
that
like
wouldn't,
code name.
that wouldn't work because they've known her forever. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I got you.
Which I'm
Yeah.
not even saying that theory, for lack of a better word, is true. But if it is,
Right.
because why does Suvi have like a real name when everyone else's name is just like a simple word that starts with S?
Right.
Anyway, let's move on. This didn't even happen this episode. Um, um, Shout out real quick. I'm just looking at my notes again. Brennan's freaking amazing descriptions and
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
poetry in motion. When he
That's
was
a great way to put
describing
it.
Ghost, he said body shaped like an apology, and that
Yeah.
just resonated with me, so I wrote it
Dude,
down.
that hits so well.
Mm,
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great insight. I'm glad you a great call out. Yeah. Brennan is incredibly gifted at I'm honestly blown away with how he describes things and the deep meaning that comes behind somewhat simple statements.
hmm
That's a perfect example of it right there.
Yeah, He's very good at what he does. Okay, now I'm caught up on the things we kind of had glossed over. I guess not that we have to be completely done with Ghost, but one final thing is the whole moment where Ursulon realizes that she's like him. And I thought that informed her character so well. You know, she kind of had a similar life to Ursulon. I don't remember which was which, but I think Wild One father, Human mother, I think. Um,
Yeah, I don't remember either way which one it was. I don't know if it was said actually.
it might not have been said. But one human parent, one
Mhm.
spirit
Right.
parent. Um,
Is that the case for Ursulon?
I guess we don't know actually. Now that I'm saying this, that's
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
not at least not. I have like 30 minutes left, like I said, of the last episode of the children's
'Cause
adventure.
I think the thing that was said from Brennan was Ursulon being of the spirit world could recognize spirit things, and
Hmm.
that's sort of like what initiated this like moment of recognition.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he clarified if it was a similar background
No,
or
you're
not.
right. I think it has not been said. So we don't know who Ursulon's mother is. So she might also be a spirit. But now just making sure I'm not crossing my lines even further. Do we even know that that is true of Ghost? That she has one human parent, one spirit parent, or did I make that up? Because I thought that's what Ursulon had.
I I think the moment is that he sees like a flash of like her life almost and recognizes that she is a daughter of, I think the expression was a spirit one and like a mortal or something like that.
Okay.
So not necessarily human, but
Right. Yeah. Okay. Um, but yeah, she kind of had like I'm curious to know is she trapped in this world? Like, why does she live in Umora instead of the
right.
spirit plane? Um, I would guess she is trapped for one reason or another, if not literally, but you know, for whatever circumstances, because she's had this hard life in the orphanage, and yeah, I had
Well,
no idea that that was coming. I mean, I don't know why I would have guessed that, but had no inclination that she was a wild one like he was. So I thought that moment was so cool when I think Lou rolled a natural 20. I think that's what brought that on. Um,
well, we don't.
we
The terminology is still a little vague in the sense of like, is she unable to go to the spirit world? Has she ever been there? Like, if she's like, did a spirit one come to Umora and have her, and like she's never been there? Like, there's
True.
like some fuzziness there in the
Yeah,
sense of
true.
like,
Yeah, we don't
yeah,
know.
would she even be considered a wild one if she's like half? Is she a half wild one? You know, and so like I don't. I'm very curious, and honestly, it's all the more reason why I'm surprised Suvi wasn't more thoughtful in this whole like recommendation to go to the Citadel, because we also know there is like a monetary desire in acquiring spirit
True.
ones. So, which she didn't realize that. I know Ursulon realized it, not her, but I don't know. It just seemed,
He
yeah.
didn't. Did he tell them?
No, I don't think he told them, so she wouldn't have known anyway. But, um, so my point's moot. But anyway,
That was still interesting. Yeah. So we already talked about it, but even more fuel to the fire of like I'm really interested to see maybe if we get any updates on Ghost's storyline. Um, but again, even if we don't, what an excellent, deep, just throwaway character, essentially. You know. Um, anyway, um, unless you've got something else, maybe we can move on to the big finale moment.
statue.
With the statue, so much happens here, and there's so much to unpack with this vision. I don't really know where to begin. I don't know if like the things that stuck out to me are like there was obviously chaos in this vision, and it
Right.
seemed at least to kind of pit against this town or whoever was here at the time versus these like gods. If not, you know, Brennan kind of explained the word God to mean like I'm not
Yeah.
necessarily saying like a deity, but like so. Is that the impression you got, or do you think it could have been the I'm just going to use the word deities, the two
I actually
deities of the statue fighting against each other,
I
or
actually
like,
wondered if there was some sort of something ironic, like what you were just saying. Like here they are, these because I think they were dancing or something, but that maybe the irony being that these two not gods, but were battling in some way. But it was kind of it was a cool like first moment in the show where it's been like there's something bigger in this world than them. Um, so like a nice little nugget of world building of like, okay, a long time ago, or who knows how long ago it was, but there was something not necessarily cataclysmic, but like in this town, incredibly important and dire. So, and I wonder if how long they're going to stay here. So I'm wondering how much even details they're going to get on this. But um, it's interesting for this moment to happen, and how will it tie in? How will it tie in the short term, or even I guess long term? So
and it was also, I mean, who knows behind the DM screen what Brennan had ready to
yeah,
go. Maybe he would have presented this information some other way, but seemingly Ame just kind of randomly, I'm going to fix this statue. And that's what kind of brought this on. Like, if they had just gone to
well,
that building that they were headed to, would we have not gotten any of this information? Um,
where Suvi fights her on this and says like, "Why are you dealing with this?" And
yeah.
Ame says it's the responsibility of witches to care for the spirits, care
Yeah.
for.
Like, take care of like shrines and stuff.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Um, so it made sense why she did it. It just, which it's great gamesmanship's not really the right word by Erika Ishii to be like, oh, that's a shrine. My character feels this way. Like, I just envision Brennan laying the bait a little bit
Yeah. Like maybe he knew she would do that.
because Brennan's talked about this before too, about how he doesn't have to railroad because once you know your players well enough, you can like lay out the canvas and you know what they're
Yeah.
going to do.
Yeah.
So it was just a really neat bait, I guess. Bait's not the right word, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
Yeah.
I was
And
like,
go ahead.
sorry, go ahead. I
No.
was just say I just enjoyed envisioning like them all being like, "Oh, that's cool, Fox," and her just convulsing behind them.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, okay. So to unpack the vision a little bit more, for obviously we don't know, but for my money, I think it's, and it's possible there could be like a god on the humanity side, for lack of a better word, but it seemed to me like these two deities or whatever were like attacking this town for some reason, because we hear, like, he describes screaming and like people up on the ramparts and like the
mm,
vines and the thing. um so to me it sounds like kind of like this cataclysmic event. And one of the, I've got the text pulled up here, so I'll make sure I say it right. One of the lines Brennan says is like, you see people up on the watchtower, and walls of stone summoned forth from the earth, which to me that's got to be referencing the huge wall that was described in episode 4, right before they
mm,
got to Finley's. He described the huge wall that was like made by spellcasters. um
yeah, interesting.
so clearly to me that wall was erected during this wartime to prevent these forces from getting in, maybe to block like ocean waves or something from coming in. But he also describes, at the very end, you hear endless waves and deep song from the bottom of the ocean cut short, and a scream choked with ash, fire, and smoke. So to me, that's kind of describing all of these salt fires that are everywhere. Like maybe those salt fires are in some way like a defense against these gods or whatever. Like the wall and the salt fires, maybe like did this vision happen recently that she's seeing, or is
Mm,
this, or maybe it didn't, but the wall's still here from whenever that was, and maybe they like ritualistically still do these fires every once in a while. But Ursulon didn't
yeah,
know of the fires last time he was here, so I don't know.
I think since Ursulon's been here before, he would know if that was a recent event. He would have been like, "This was from last Tuesday when
Yeah,
that god came down and destroyed everything."
it doesn't seem to be
Um,
recent.
I don't. I personally don't think it's linked with the salt fire, or I guess Britain revised it to witch fires. Um, but to me, since he talked about like vine, it's very interesting because I envision earth and fire in opposition with like greenery and vines. So we're like where my mind like goes to is the cliche like fire bad, evil, and vines like restorative, like good versus evil. But he talks about the vines like creating ruin. So I don't know. Like I'm really struggling between two godlike entities battling it out in the town and people just being like, it's like the first Avengers. People are just like hiding in New York. Like
They were kind of
it's
just caught in the crossfire.
yeah. Or if it's like you said, there was like an actual attack. The thing that'd be strange about an attack on the town would be why would you create a statue of these two people? Um, one of them was
Yeah,
defaced, though. The other one wasn't. And so it makes you wonder if like
yeah.
I don't know.
I
I
wondered
don't
that
know.
same thing when we first were presented with the information. I was like, is she going to heal the face and it's going to be sinister or something? Because like he described the woman as being like happy that they were dancing, so I
Yeah.
expected the man to have like ulterior motives or something, but that didn't seem to be the case necessarily.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, really interesting. What a cool like world building bomb drop. Um,
Yeah.
so curious to find out more. One thing that's interesting that Button pointed out in our Discord was the structure out in the sea that they saw the lights of, in the previous episode.
Yeah.
They were speculate. I don't want to put words in their mouth, but I think they were speculating that maybe that was like also like a line of defense, like whatever that
Mm.
is like some sort of defense against potentially whatever happened here or something. Like it's like a keeping the spirits at bay potentially.
Yeah. The only, like I said, I don't fully ascribe to it, to that theory, but what I like about it is that there's clearly some kind of attack on the city. It's not I wouldn't say like supernaturally so, but like beyond just like we got a bunch of gangs around here. Like there's something happening with like the witch fires and the wall, this thing out in the ocean that Ursulon's like, man, none of this was ever here before. I mean, the city's obviously under attack by something in some way. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and while I was looking at this, commune DM also in our Discord mentioned, I think his words, not mine. I think the Citadel Empire has already employed malevolent spirits to potentially battle lock away others. And he said this
Mm,
the combat description of this scene reminded me of what happened during Suvi's childhood, when they like teleported to that town and it was like
mm,
chaos and fire. I'm wondering if this isn't the same town,
right.
obviously, but I wonder if the chaos of that night is the same night that this happened.
Oh, interesting.
Like maybe
Yeah.
there was like this world kind of,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay.
Oh, one final thing on this this save and this experience that Ame had is during the fireside chat. I don't remember the exact context, but they were talking about this moment, and Brennan said, "I can't tell you what she saved from in that saving throw because she might it's still relevant," is what he was saying.
Ah,
And what's
yeah. Okay.
interesting is they've recorded like this fireside chat for them. They didn't record right after they filmed this episode, so they filmed like I don't know how many, but several episodes past this. And so it's interesting that even still it's relevant.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just
Okay.
thought that was a little juicy tidbit.
Yeah. That's nice.
Um,
I like it. I'm here for it.
but yeah, I definitely got me itching for more. I want more of this world building. We still need to. We mentioned maybe putting together like a document.
Yeah.
Somebody shared with me there is a Wikipedia. I don't know like how official it is. Not that that matters. But all that to say, I haven't like dived into it yet, so I don't know like how comprehensive it is. But if it is comprehensive, then great, less work for us. But we still need to look into that and either, I guess, contribute to that Wikipedia ourselves, or make our own.
Yeah,
Not
okay.
make our own Wikipedia, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Cool. I'm all about it. Well, anything else from this episode you want to talk about?
I don't think so, my friend. I don't think so.
Well, guys, let us know what you guys thought about the episode, and we got a new one tomorrow, dropping tomorrow. So
Yeah,
we'll see where this goes.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
All right. Last but not least, we just need a little thumbnail action.
That's right.
I was thinking, maybe I was just gonna do like a surprise kind of like the final reveal type of thing.
I'm all about it.
All right.
Good surprise face.
Nice.
Thanks. All right. I guess that's it.
Alrighty, guys. Till next time.
See ya.